Hey everybody, this is Nathan Artt with Executive Leadership Solutions, and I am so excited today to be joined once again by my friend Kyle Ranson with Crossroads Church. So Kyle, so great to see you, man.
Glad to be here, hang out, talk about church stuff. Let's go.
Let's go, man. Let's go. So last time you and I did this, you kind of blew my mind and apparently a lot of people's minds with the study that you and the Crossroads team did just on online church and what is the market for online church. Actually, before we go too far, for the people who didn't see that, and we'll link to it to make sure if you want to see it, you can. Give us a 30-second elevator pitch, just kind of reminding us what you guys discovered in that study.
Cool. Before that, I want to give a shout out to our research team at Crossroads, Manny Schmidt, Andy Ray, all the people who actually did all the work. They're amazing. I just get to talk about it. They basically set out to say, is there an appetite for church just done differently? What if the declines we see in attendance aren't about people being less interested in God? What if it's about the model of church doesn't work for them? And so we put together a concept, literally an image with text that promised a faith community entirely online. And I watched the video for more detail on it. You can see exactly what the words were, and we put it in front of people, and we did consumer testing. We're in Cincinnati. It's the land of Nielsen and Procter and Gamble and CPG land. And so we test everything. We want to know before we build and before we invest, is it an idea worth building? Do people want it? Put it out there, tested it, and we found, oh my goodness, there's an amazing receptivity to the idea of a church done online. We found 73 million people across the United States, according to our research, which is, again, I would say airtight, would say, yeah, if this were available, if this were a thing, I would want to do it. And that was mind-blowing to us.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out to me personally is just that we see relationships either physically or digitally. And that study basically said people, especially in the upcoming generations, the younger they are, they just see relationship. And the medium that they're more accustomed to, I guess, doesn't necessarily define the relationship for them. And I thought that was so interesting. So
Yeah,
with with all that
in
being
there,
said, man, tell us a little bit about what you're learning still from that study. And
well, that study, kind of the thought process behind it, was wanting to take our church into a second phase or a second age of pursuing online church. And I'd say age one, phase one is where a lot of us are, which was, hey, this thing works in person. Let's create the digital version of it. So small groups work in person. Let's make digital small groups. A person talking on a stage in front of an audience, that works in person. Let's record it and post it on the internet. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. We just wanted to say, what if you started from the beginning designing the experience with the uniqueness of online experiences all available to you? What would happen if you weren't photocopying something that was originally intended for in person, and you started with, this is inherently natively from the beginning about online. That was what was behind it, and that's the concept we presented. That's what got the attention. And so since, we've been working on, what does that mean from a content standpoint, from a community standpoint? What might we create for people, and what kind of response would we get with that stuff?
sounds interesting. So what are some of the things that you guys are learning? What are you working on? I mean, obviously, it's to me to think that they're 1/4 of the population would raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested in Christian content. I'm even interested in Christian relationships. I'm just not a church person. That's 73 million is a lot of people. What are you guys seeing as the opportunity there? What are you fleshing through as a team and how to approach that even in your community?
One, I'd say we're not doing it perfectly, but we are doing something about it. We're trying stuff. Is I think the most
Yeah.
important thing. And I would say for anybody out there, the most important thing is you try some stuff, right? If you're inspired by this, you're encouraged by it. Just try some stuff. We're at the very beginning. You're not going to do it wrong by trying. You're going to learn some stuff. I'm going to call you and ask you what you learned. But beyond that, we were really just wanted to start and get people into community. The big knock against online church is it's content first. And I want to be clear, the concept we put in front of people was not watch content. It was be part of a community. It was grow in your faith. It was access to real mentors who can help you grow and get further in your faith. It was all that stuff. It was minoring on content. It was majoring on community. That's what they said they wanted online. And so I want to get to the community stuff, but I do want to hit the content, because the content for us, one, it plays an important role in getting people connected to God. There's definitely theological precedence for regularly receiving biblical teaching as part of what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And we just want to make sure that we're not skipping over that. And it does tend to be some of the first experiences that people have with us. And so I want to dig a little bit, if I can. I'll show you some research we did into some of our content that we're making. We are, as far as I can tell, there's probably other people out there doing this. I just haven't seen them. We're the only place I'm aware of who makes 2 versions of our weekend service and puts them out. We make one that's a film recording of our stage. So what happens in the room, we film it the best we can, record it the best we can, and then we post it online. And it's available live stream, and it's available on demand after that. And then we also take that same teaching, so whatever the message is meant to be and whoever's giving it, and we do a shorter version done to camera in a more interesting way. And the goal there is, again, the same thought that drove that research. What if we took the message we want to give? I taught about the lost parables a few weeks ago. I gave that message on stage in a room. I also gave it to camera on location. And the idea was, well, what if I tried to teach people, but I did it starting with the thought that the people watching me are consuming this online, starting with the thought of they're watching me probably most likely on a phone. What would I do differently? How would I make it more interesting? How would I capture and hold their attention? How long should it be? You sort of chew through all that stuff. And so we in addition to our weekend service from the stage that we put online, we also make what we refer to as an episode. We have a show. It's called Crossroads. There are 52 episodes a year, and we put out a 25-minute long episode every single week to our audience. And we've done that since COVID began, and we've continued after. We've not missed a weekend with it. There have been highs. There have been lows. It's not an insignificant investment to do it. And I know it's not something that everybody's going to jump into and do right away. And so as somebody sort of at the front of it, I want to report to everybody else, here's what I'm seeing. Here's the good and the bad of it. So let me share my screen here, and I'll show you some research. I'm going to hit share, and then I'm going to hit, did it share with you? It probably did not
yet.
Did it?
We're getting there.
Let's go here. Boom.
All right.
Boom. Share. Okay. I think we got it now. It's coming on. Content. So we set our research team and we said, hey, can you tell us the performance of the content we make specifically for somebody watching online versus the content that was made for a room that we film, record, and post online? How are these different? Because again, I don't want to invest in anything that's not producing fruit, right? I don't think that's being a good steward of precious resources. I want to make sure that whatever we're investing has a return that I'm looking for. And so this is what our team came back with in terms of performance. And I'll explain, let me kind of orient us to what we're looking at here, and then we'll dive into what it says. First, all the way on the right, there's this column that says other unknown. I want you to just pretend that does not even exist, because it means we don't know. There's a pile of data, as in any data set, that just goes, we follow the thread backwards, and then it just dies somewhere. We don't actually know what it is. So we're going to put that over there. We don't need it anyway. Our research team is so thorough. They just wanted to represent, we found some of this stuff in there too, okay? And then we've got a look at, from a column standpoint, you've got web all the way on the left, app in the middle, and OTT, which is over-the-top television. So you're watching through Apple TV or Amazon Prime or Roku, but you're watching on your screen. Those are the 3 columns. And then our rows, starting top to bottom, are our different types of content that we put out. And we do more than just our weekend services and episodes. We do shorter form video. This is exclusively our weekend focused content. So kind of that core of what we put out every single week. On location away is that orange bar at the very top. That means we filmed a message or an episode on location. So usually it's outside, although not exclusively outside, but somewhere that's far away. And so for us, our church was started in the Midwest, Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where our main offices are. And so this is saying we went somewhere more interesting looking than Cincinnati, Ohio. It's not a slam if you're from Cincinnati. I love my city. It's fantastic here. There's just places that look better than this, right? And so we go far away. It's on a mountaintop. It looks beautiful. There's snow, or we're over in Israel, or we're just far away. It's a cool looking location. And you can see how it performed. It was our top performer in terms of retention. And let me explain why I'm looking at retention. Because somebody might go like, why aren't you paying attention to views? Views is up and down. I can put some money in it. I can affect it. It's about how many people showed up that particular weekend. It's about a bunch of different factors. Retention is the purest measure of quality. And right now I want to know, is what we're making good? When somebody watches it, do they keep watching, or do they hit a point where they're like, not for me. I don't watch the whole thing, right? In a service context, this is like, as I'm one of our teaching pastors, I'm on stage. This is the moment where I'm like, I want to see heads nodding and people responding the whole time I'm giving my 35-minute long message. I don't want them to check out at their 15 minutes and start checking their watches, right? I've lost them. I want to keep these people. That's how I know if it's good or bad. So that's retention. And you can see this is our top performer. And I want to break down these columns for us, because it's intuitive if you understand and you think about how you behave with each of these things. So our best retention, biggest bar in this entire chart, is on location on over-the-top TV devices. That's that giant 85% retention bar you see there. Now, why is that? That's because when you watch on your television, if you turn it on, you hold your remote control, which is the thing you have to pick up to change your mind. You click it on, and then you put your remote down over here. And we're so lazy that just the extra effort of going over here to pick up my remote and change the channel is enough to make me not change the channel. In fact, maybe you do this if you're watching Netflix like I do, you're watching your show, it gets a little bit boring, and it might get interesting again in a while. I don't know. And so what I do is I pull out my phone and I start texting people or looking stuff up, and every once in a while I check back in on the TV, right? That's how we behave. Hence why that bar is the biggest. Web, I'm on my laptop. I like I am right now. I'm watching it on my laptop. I'm seeing what's happening. It's definitely easier. I just have to move my hands this way to exit out, right? But there's just a little bit more friction. App, I'm literally holding you in my hand, and my thumb is right here. And if I don't like it, I'm out, right? And so that's kind of where you see consistently OTT has the longest retention, then web, then app. Great. Let's talk about the columns going down. So our top performer, on location away. XR. What does XR mean? That is extended reality, or virtual production is another name for this. This is kind of the cutting edge of production, video production. If you watch The Mandalorian is done in a virtual production environment. You go on YouTube and see they make this giant LED screen. They project virtual environments on that screen. They film the actors in front of it, and you have no idea that what you're watching isn't real. It's basically mimicking faraway locations is how we used it. So we did this. We went to Vegas and filmed. We went to Atlanta and filmed on these stages as experiments. And we had a team who designed environments that we couldn't have gotten to on our own, right? And so in the morning, we're on a mountaintop. In the afternoon, we're in a desert. You can't do that from a production standpoint. You can in XR. So there's some real cost savings, and there's some real efficiency savings in terms of time. And interestingly, it mimics on location far away. That was our intent, and the data shows, oh my gosh, look at that. It performs almost exactly the same. 85%, 85%, 55%, 54%, 64%, 63%. So almost exactly. And in that gray middle bar is on location local. So this is, we don't have just a ton of money to go far away all the time. We want to pick and choose our spots, and we think it's really going to create the impact and return in terms of people being changed and hearing the gospel. There's other series where we're doing it really, really cheap. And so I'll tell my team, basically, you've got shoestrings and duct tape. That's your budget for the next 5 weeks. Go film something interesting, right? And so we end up in places like the message I mentioned earlier where we filmed the Lost Parables. We did that in my yard. My yard is free, right? And there's no cost to us in terms of location for that. And we see how those perform. That's on location local, 61%, 54%, 83%. And then studio, the purple bar, is an idea that we tried for a while that we didn't love for lots of different reasons. But it was, hey, what if we didn't go on location? What if we built a little makeshift studio in one of our buildings and we just set up there? Advantage from a production standpoint, if you're in the creative world, or if you're an executive pastor, you would like this idea. You can set up one time, one location. There's savings in terms of staff time needed. There's savings in terms of equipment because you can kind of set it, forget it. You walk in, you flip on the lights, you roll the cameras, and you go. And if you're on a team where you do one of those roles, like you do the cameras and the lights, you're like, Kyle, it's never how it works. You never actually just walk in, set the cameras, and go. I understand. I totally get it. And it's also easier on location. So that was a studio. The disadvantage there is you're losing visual interest. So there is some brand consistency. There's a set behind you, but you're losing visual interest. It's difficult to sustain an audience attention over time when the background really never changes, right? You're just losing something there. And then the lowest performer on the bottom is what we record from the stage. That's the blue bar. And the interesting thing here is not to say that the stage doesn't have value. It's to say that the theory, which all of our best research would tell us, there's nothing groundbreaking in what I'm saying. When you design something with intention for an audience versus repurpose something designed for somebody else and give it that same audience, they prefer the one you made for them. They think that's better, and it lasts longer. Now, actually, let me pause there because I could keep talking for a while. Let me pause there. Thoughts, questions?
So Kyle, one of the things I'd love to hear with this. So one of the things you just said, and I think this is really important, is visual interest. Creating content for the people in the format that feels like it's made for them. I know enough to be dangerous here, but I know there's transitions and every few seconds that needs to change. What are some of the practical things from a length perspective of the video, how you're transitioning that visual interest, and even who's delivering this? Because I know a lot of lead pastors might be watching this and they're going, oh crap, I got to record. I'm already doing 6 sermons on Sunday, and now I got to record a different message. What are some of the practical ways that you guys approach this to create this content that's not taxing on the lead pastor and staff?
Well, one, I'd say it is taxing on the lead pastor and the staff. There's really no way around it. Again, why I wanted this research done. This has a cost. Is it worth it? That's what I want to know. When you open a new site, that site comes with a cost, right? You got to buy the property, you got to do property improvements, or you got to build from scratch, and then you got to hire the right staff. There's all this investment comes along with it. This is the exact same. We're building something new to reach a new audience. Is it going to be worth all the effort that it takes? And what it practically looks like for us right now is we've moved to where we batch our episodes. So I'm creating some efficiencies in terms of my production team. We can make it into 1 week. We shot 3 episodes over 2.5 days plus music 2 weeks ago. And then in 2 more weeks, we're going to shoot 4 more over 2 days. And we try to batch them. Ideally, we've done it before. We're shooting 5 or 6 episodes over 3 days. Those are happening far before the weekend. So as one of our teachers, for instance, I'll do one of these recordings on June 28th. And I will teach that message on July 10th or 17th. So there'll be some delay that can create confusion. Again, it's difficult, so I want to know if it's worth it. But what we're aiming at is impact, right? I mean, that's where we're trying to steer the ship. Is we're trying to capture and hold people's attention. And at least at this point, I would say that the effort is difficult. But at least right now, it appears the fruit is worth it. We also worth mentioning, we put on our website and in our app as best as we can. We show both options for people side by side right now. I'm not sure that's the best long-term thing exactly, but for right now, we're going, hey, here they are. you choose, and we see 2/3 of people choosing the one that was made for online. 1/3
Mhm.
of people choose the stage. So it's not an insignificant amount of work. Right now, it appears worth it.
Yeah, and I want to encourage everybody watching this too. One of the things I just took from that for me, you think about on location in Israel, you may gravitate towards some of the most difficult components here. But I also want to encourage you that one of those episodes, I actually watched that episode, shot in your yard, and it was more post production work that was put in than the shoot. So these are attainable things. I don't think we're saying you have to have an XR studio to be successful at this. It's repurposing the resources for greatest impact is what I hear you saying. And something else that you and I've talked about a lot, and you mentioned it even early in this, is that we're not inviting people just to engage with us and to watch content. The entire purpose of this is to move people into community. I'd
Yes.
love to talk more about some of the things you guys have done with this content to create online community.
Yeah, let's jump into that because it is, I've had my team focused on retention graphs for so long. I had an email this morning about we have this little video that's going to work in rooms and should it be in the online episode and everybody's thinking retention, well, why would I do that? It's not because I'm trying to build a media empire. It's because I'm trying to get your heart. I'm trying to get you to go like, oh my gosh, I think God has something to say to me. And we go, I do too. And you know what? He actually has more for you than you can possibly imagine. Why don't you come along with us and we'll help you get all the way there, right? I'm trying to get you into that community. And similarly, our hypothesis is we will do a better job at that if we start with you being online versus start with what we know. We know small groups. We'll just put them online. But there's something that happens with a small group where you're sharing in a certain way and you're around and it has a start and stop time. And I don't know, I've been in some Zoom small groups. There is real positives to them. There's also some real drawbacks. They can get really boring. And especially if you've never done a Zoom group as a stranger, try that and see how you like it. Try meeting strangers via Zoom for the very first time. It's a really high bar. It's not something that people are necessarily looking for. And I would say worse, it's not leveraging the very best aspects of what online can do. Um,
Correct.
for instance, when there's a small group, right? It has a start and stop time. I have my guys group. We meet every Thursday. Last night, by the way, we found this driving range where you hit golf balls into water, floating driving range. There's boats out there. It was awesome. Just grab beers and smash some golf balls at boats. It was fantastic. Had a start time and a stop time though, right? And so we met at 8:30. We went till about 11. So last night it was from 8:30 to 11. My buddy John was driving back from Chicago. He couldn't be there. He was super bummed. Can't make it. Missed it, right? Same with the Zoom small group, by the way. There's more access to it. John, if we did it via Zoom, John could have hopped on his Zoom via his car. That would have been totally fine, right? But it's a start and stop time. Well, online community, the beautiful part about it? It doesn't have hours. It's just like the beautiful part about Amazon. Amazon doesn't have hours. They are always open. Anytime you want, you can go to Amazon. It's not like, hey, we open at 9 your time and close 9 p.m. Your time. So anyway, hope you got what you needed.
You have to be within 20 minutes in order to get to us.
Yes. That's not how community works online. I was like, wait a minute, there's this massive advantage. The most rudimentary form is my text threads, right? Like, it's not on off. There's not like, hey, Nathan, we're going to text each other, but only Wednesdays from 7 a.m. till 8 a.m., Nathan. Don't text me, right? Like, no, we text each other all the time. Those are how relationships work. There's this asynchronous is the word we would use in design world. It's an asynchronous community. How might we design asynchronous community for people? Meaning I can engage with a deeply meaningful, life-changing community when I want, where I want, how I want. It's how I do Facebook groups. It's how I do lots of stuff. And so for us, it was like, we don't want to promise online church, the concept test we did, and then deliver digitized in-person church and call it online church. No, that's not the same. we want to design online church. And so from a community standpoint, we invented something called cohorts, which I think I mentioned in our last video that we did. And since we have launched them and we saw how they went. So I'll show you some numbers on that in just a second. But I want to start with what we created. So Insight was asynchronous community. Insight was people won't join community for the sake of community. Everybody's lonely, but no one will admit it. Our research shows that definitively. Everyone is lonely. No one wants to admit it. You cannot market to loneliness. You have to market to a need that they're willing to admit, right? And so we created these groups. We had 9 pilots. Our goal was very, very small. We're piloting something. We're trialing. And at Crossroads, we're big believers in that as a design process. We want to try it small, see how it works, make it better, then launch it big. And so we wanted 20 people per group, 9 groups. They were things like 21 days to a better marriage, 21 days to feel more confident as a mom, 21 days to answer your questions about God, 21 days to find true happiness. And we put it out there. And amazingly, people responded, and they responded pretty powerfully beyond even what we thought that they would. So let me show you what those responses were. So what's coming up right now is some data. Here they are. And again, these were all titled. This is an internal document. So that Build a Better Marriage was 21 days to build a better marriage. We had 526 people sign up for this. Our goal was 180. This is over a couple of days, and we actually had to close down signups. It was doing this like takeoff thing, which was really exciting, and also from a pilot standpoint, kind of terrifying because we've never done this before. We have no idea if it's going to work, right? And so it's like, whoa, this is awesome, and we should probably cap it somewhere. Can we cap it at 500? And it was like, cap it, and then 26 more people were like, scooted in. We made a waiting list, by the way, for the rest of everybody else. And we will do a version 2. Absolutely, we'll do it. Working on that now, but had a really, really exciting response from people. And you can see how signups went. Build a Better Marriage, 130 people signed up. Find True Happiness, 86 people. Feel Confident as a Mom, 80 people. The least signed up for a group, Answer Your Questions About God, this is interesting, right? I think as churches, we can go like, you know what people are wanting from us? To answer their questions about God. No, actually, what they're wanting is help. It's the same as people who Jesus met. He didn't walk up to people with real needs and go like, you know what I'm going to do? Answer all your questions about God. You're welcome, even though he was truth. Instead, he walked up, and when he saw a woman who was thirsty at a well, he gave her water. He helped her with her need in the moment. And that's what we're trying to do with this, is help people's need in the moment and use truth to do that, right? You're not going to have a better marriage unless you understand the truth of Jesus, unless you get some of your questions about God answered. So that was absolutely a part of that experience. We just didn't lead with it. By the way,
one thing, Kyle, real quick to jump in on before you go, and I'm sorry but you're honing in on something too. I think that's really important just to point out here is also the church. I talked to Matt Engel about this actually recently. That a lot of times too, the church focuses on marriages in crisis, and there's, by the way, absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing. But also at the end of the day, we're speaking to a group of people. I mean, ask the question, who is married that doesn't want a better marriage? Who doesn't want to find contentment? And it's a commonality or a need that reaches a large, vast population, and it's not so specific to a marriage in crisis or a Christian marriage. It's truly about reaching people on a topic they care about, right? And it's invitational in so many different ways. And so I just want to point that out. I think that's really amazing that it's not, hey, save your marriage. This is have a better marriage. And that just reaches such a larger audience than sometimes the specifics that we use as a church.
That's exactly right. Well, you can see how these things performed, right? Because that's something you go like, who doesn't want a better marriage? Well, look at the bottom of the list. 32 people signed up for Be a Better Dude. Now, when they got in that was one of our high impact groups. So if you signed up for it, people had an amazing experience. I mean, I can tell you stories for days about how great that was. But the promise of Be a Better Dude is one I'm like, man, that next time needs to get sharper and closer to what people are looking for, because I'm a dude, but I don't know that I've ever consciously or even subconsciously had the thought of, I want to be a better dude. I might, want to be better at other stuff. And then you
Yeah.
look at be a better dad. And similarly there, I go, I think there's an insight for us to unlock that we could build this around that we missed. With a mom, feel confident as a mom is such a specific thing that hits this insight we had of most moms, the best moms even, don't feel like they are. Feel like they're failing. They feel like everybody else is doing better than them. I look at Instagram. I'm like, oh my gosh, you took your kids to the zoo. I can't. I want to lock my kids in the cages at the zoo. I don't want to take them to the zoo. Like they have these feelings, and so we really hit what they were looking for. I think be a better dad is probably just too broad, and so we'll go back to the drawing board on that one. Let me show you a little bit more about who did this. This is by age participation. We didn't offer a ton for people under 26, so that 18 number from 19 to 25 doesn't super surprise me. I know that we really targeted that group, but that millennial group, 26 to 40, which by the way, those are the millennials right now. That was our largest group. We won there, and then we even saw 41-55, some great participation from them. I think this is my next slide. This is the one I'm most excited about. This is like, oh my gosh, we found something amazing. So let me explain it. At Crossroads, we've begun to try to determine, how do we know at scale, we're a very large community. Depending on how you count us, there are tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, or millions of people, right? There's so many people. And you try to understand who are people, because we have a heart to know them, to love them, to serve them really well. And so we started lead scoring people based on what we can understand about you when you hit our radar. Are you highly engaged? Are you kind of average engaged? Or are you low engaged? Meaning you hit our radar, but you're not really doing anything else, right? And so you might have checked a kid into our Kids Club program. You might have signed up for a newsletter, something along those lines, but you're not doing anything else. And this is what's mind-blowing to me and so encouraging and just like fires me up to run in this direction, is you can look at that graph and you can go, who loved cohorts? Who was that especially effective with? The low engaged people. 526 people, 413 of them were people who weren't doing anything else with us. They saw all of our other options. We have online small groups. We have a whole bunch of stuff. We have a million things that you can do. And they went, no, thank you. Doesn't work for me. Doesn't fit my life. But when we walked in and we said, would you like to feel more confident as a mom? It's 21 days. In 21 days, you'll feel more confident as a mom. It's an experience you can do from wherever you are. It doesn't begin. It doesn't end. You join this group, and they ran with it. And by the way, I don't think I've said this yet. Let me give you just the quickest version of what a cohort practically was. Practically, the best thing you can think about is a Facebook group. You join a group. People are in the group, then see that feed. You can comment, you can post things to the feed, you can respond to people. So we were doing daily engagement with us multiple times a day. There were challenges, there were miniature teachings, there were sharing things that just kind of rolled, right? It's the life of that community is in that feed and in those comments. And we heard so many stories of marriages saved. Interestingly, by people who said, they wrote in and they were like, hey, you won't see me and my husband show up in the comments. We're unlikely to post. That's just not where we are, kind of who we are. We're lurkers was the word they used. And this has saved our marriage. Thank you so much for doing it. And all we did is we leveraged the opportunity of online versus photocopy what happens in the building, and we made something new that people found value in that they hadn't found in this, and it changed their lives. It gave them transformative Christian community, and that's what we're after. So that's some of the latest and some of the greatest from what we're seeing. I mean, there's still a million things for us to figure out about how you make them better. What other forms of community might work, but that's some of the stuff we're most excited about right now.
Kyle, I love this, and what I'm hearing in this, and there's a couple things I'd even love to close out with here. But you found relevance, right? So that 21 days, the sermon from the stage could have been about generosity. It could have been about you mentioned the short stories. It could have been about anything. And there's 500 people in the church who said, here's where I'm at in my life right now. Here's why I'm engaging with Crossroads. The thing I value the most is, man, that woman who says, you guys saved my marriage. We may not be until a sermon series on marriage for another 11 months. And in this case, she was able to opt in with another group of people who cared about the same things and grow and live together. And I also believe in all my heart, if this would have been 52 weeks on having a better marriage, that she might not have joined because that's too big of a commitment because she's not engaged.
She wouldn't have.
So the medium of saying that, hey, we're reaching people who are low engaged and creating a low barrier of entry to add value to people's life based on what they care about. I am so excited to see what happens in her and her husband's journey with Crossroads going forward. That may not have happened if you wouldn't have done these cohorts. So, man, just amazing work, Kyle. Any other thoughts now that those cohorts have closed out? Any other thoughts on how Crossroads is working or moving with those people through the next phase?
A lot. I mean, it's all of those opportunities were built to lead to more for people. So that's important to say. It wasn't 21 days, day 21 ends and we shut off the feed and everybody says goodbye. We're seeding the entire time opportunities for people to connect. Do you want a mentor? We can get you a mentor. Do you want to, some of you feel like you're really connecting to some of your moms. Do you want us to now set you up an online small group because you know each other? Right? I mean, now all of a sudden you can see like an online small group might be a perfect thing for some of those moms because now they know each other, but they were never going to sign up with it from the beginning. So we're getting them in there. And by the way, in all this work, I want to say this is, again, here at Crossroads, this is not my genius. This is a team of people's geniuses. And specifically, that's Rachel Ryder, who thought of cohorts, who designed cohorts, who put in the effort to lead it, and her husband, Andy, who is joining us as one of our online pastors now. Super excited about that. The two of them really poured themselves into it, and they're going to carry it forward. What I get to do is cheerlead it, commission it, vision it, go like, keep going. This is amazing what you're doing. Run after it. And there's a lot here too. For anybody who's in a position of executive leadership at a church, right? We reach this level where we're not really executing much. What we're doing is we're pointing and we're permissioning people. And what I did here is I said, hey, what I care about is people having transformative Christian community. Mm-hmm. That's what I told Rachel. Beyond that, you tell me what people will actually do. And then you just kind of walk with her and got check-ins and kind of help where I could. But I didn't say, our church has a goal of adding 5,000 small groups this year. You online church need to add your portion. So go add 1,000 online small groups. Didn't do that. Started with the heart and the intent, and let her design the vehicle that gets people there. Great. So anyway, good job, Rachel. She knows I think she's amazing, but you're amazing. Good job.
Great job, Rachel. To Rachel, you are amazing, and we'll interview you next time instead of Kyle.
Exactly. That'd be way better interview. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Hey, but man, again, as always, just thank you so much. And I'll end by saying this, similar to the conversation we're having here, Executive Leadership Solutions, man, our whole passion is to equip leaders for the church of the future. And we do that by connecting leaders to each other and to people like Kyle, Allen, the best thought leaders we have both in ministry and business, man. And we want you to know, I think at the end of the day, too, that this is not just about sending content to you. We want to make our thought leaders accessible to you. We want to help facilitate community, and we're grateful for all of you who've already done that. But man, we would love to be on this journey with you guys. So if there's any questions about our roundtables or events or any of the things we're doing, we'd love to chat with you about that. We will post some resources as well in the notes under this interview. One of the things I think we'll include, too, is even a link to one of the offsite videos that Kyle was referring to, maybe even the one in his front yard. But if you have any questions, any concern, anything even for Kyle, please feel free to respond to this, and we would love to get back with you soon. But thank you so much for being a part of this today. And Kyle, again, thank you, man. Thank you for all the great work you're doing, bro, and it's just fun to get to do this with you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me do it. It's an absolute honor and joy just to get to provide if I can do any like encouragement, inspiration, anything. for people who are out there trying to push the kingdom forward, man, I'm always in. So
I love it.
thanks.
I love it. Thank you guys so much, and thank you. And we'll talk soon.